I'm just doing that.
Oh, the squeaker. Oh.
Yes I do, and why is my edit? Yeah?
I have it on, it shows you, it shows you, your footsteps. It's
I'm
exact
back.
same on mobile.
I can now 1v1 now.
I've got a box fight map. I've got a box fight map.
What the hell? I was seeing Adam. Here, let me v-part again.
No, I'll v-part.
I thought we were doing box fight.
I'll v-part.
I thought we were doing. I've got the map.
Can you
Adam, what map you going? Come on, make me through it.
Make.
Oh, how much watermelon do you have, you wee greedy? Elephant. Bye.
Oh, the squeaker. Oh. Who's the weapons? Yeah, it's me. Nah, keep your weapons. Oh, it's a hunger man. Come over here. Oscar.
Are you using?
Oh my god.
I want to be one you.
No, I'm not really. Hey, I'm trying to get some guns here. I'm just trying to get a Sprint SMG.
Yeah, mine too.
I do.
Where's Josh, man?
He's one of my friends from Seoul.
What chest? I'll get your rock. No, let me get your rock.
I was gonna let you get your reward.
Alright. Let me get your rocks, Pat. Put yourself in that box and let me get your raw. Go put your... Raw? Why is Pat?
Cause I feel like it.
No way, Pat!
Okay, fine.
Huh?
Alright, you ready? Let me try again.
Who's one you wanted me in?
What the hell? I'm just gonna try again.
What, is that you? Was that you?
I tried to no
Wait,
scope.
this lose this on me.
Aye.
Is that? Cause Daniel was like, I'm gonna take your ball, and I was like, you're not taking hee haw. I was 2 health.
Pat, I'll help you. Pat.
Lewis, come over here.
Alright.
Ooh. I would actually played like if I was being Lewis, but I thought I was being Daniel. Cause I play a different playstyle when I'm being Daniel. I just sit in boxes. I'll be Daniel. Oh my god, I ripped into Daniel's box.
They're just rogue Spider Knight guy.
Who wants to see how good my aim is when I don't aim in? Adam, I wasn't aiming in there.
I thought him.
What is happening? It's carnage.
It was over. Ha!
Nah. Yeah?
I'm tagging everyone up. What are we doing?
We're doing a 1v1. That's what we're
Okay.
doing.
Patrick, that 1v1 I just killed all of them. That was so clean.
Smooth.
Burn, burn, burn.
Whoa! Everybody's on me! Very 4 HP, I'm 1 hit.
Everyone's stealing my kills. Daniel. Daniel. When do you get Florina juice?
Yo, what's happening? What is happening? We're just so carnage.
I made that very weak.
Josh, Ma.
Oh, Joe, why you steal my kill, Reese? Why you steal my kill? I'm on 3 HP. Why you kill me on 3 HP?
Dude, people are using our cards now.
Losing them backs.
Oh my god.
What the? This is fun. I'm just getting lasered from every side. Look.
Here.
Okay, who's using attack?
This is...
Who's this?
Ah, what? Why is everybody so sweaty?
Because I don't know.
Who's that? Who's that?
But you're sure Genji.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Oh, that's a roster! I'm actually the best player ever.
I tried to take it my other gun, I'm stupid.
I'm not always so good. Anyone?
Thunder! Full of thunder! Lightning and the thunder!
Oh, ha! I just hate the touch right now.
I'm sweating boy with a wee tentacle!
Oh, pop that headshot.
You can't run away from us. Or maybe you can. I'm gonna try it back.
Who wants to see a lassie with Black Knight in top up and go sweaty?
I wanna see you.
Is this Daniel?
A lassie with Black Knight top is me, Oscar.
Oh. Daniel.
Trash!
They're playing at Joe's now. Hey, I'll invite you up, party. What is your problem? You should actually
Then take this thing on mountains with your friends, do boost and jumps. Hey guys, how's it going? I got another GTA video for you guys today. This one was a fan requested video as well. In this video, we are going to be looking at the best vehicle for each business. Each business has different styles of gameplay, and each has vehicles which specialize in it. So let's get started. Starting off here, we are looking at the MC businesses, and the best vehicle for them are the oppressors, both the regular oppressor and the Mark II variant. The regular oppressor costs a total of $3,524,500, but you can get it for a trade price of $2,650,000 if you complete the MLC oppressor missions. The oppressor Mark II costs $3,890,250, but you can get it for a trade price of $2,950,000 if you complete 5 flying jobs. I personally prefer the regular oppressor because I like that it's on the ground and it has a better boost versus the Mark II. But the Mark II is great for MCs as well. What makes the oppressors the best vehicles for the MC business is the fact that they can be spawned so easily. All you need to do is just go into the interaction menu, and you can spawn them almost anywhere, and it's instant. This makes the oppressor extremely helpful for traveling around the map as an MC, and very easy to get from business to business, as in this case, I'm buying supplies. It also helps with businesses like when you get a duffel bag, because you can get them across the map very fast. However, when transporting bags, be careful not to fall off and die, because you can lose your product.
I've got 50.
Keep in mind, people can also use them to attack you. These oppressors can also help with the bunker, hangar, and the nightclub. If you're an MC, you can spawn them from your interaction menu, or you can
What's the celebration? I like
it. Cost a total of $1,688,000, but you can get it for a price of $3,600,000.
Keep Mason it. Don't mute everyone except Mason. Adam, mute everyone except Mason.
Really? I don't see a lot of people using this jet, but whenever I source hangar cargo, I always use this jet. It's
we're not meeting you by the way, don't worry.
Molotov can spawn right outside your hangar from your interaction.
You don't need to be very quiet by the way. You can talk still, but just don't be loud.
It's faster than both the Hydra and the laser, and it can land almost anywhere. It's so easy to land this jet, and very hard to crash it. It can land on streets and hills easy, even on islands, as you guys are about to see. And you can take advantage of this by collecting hangar crates, then taking off.
If we're not fighting,
then fly back easily to your
see if
hangar,
we go silent,
drop them on the roof without having to get out of the jet.
That means we're in a fight, but if we're talking to you,
alright Adam, I'll explain a phrase. Adam, have you got the boogie down remote? Have you got, do it in 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, fuck. Over to the vehicle, pick it up, and take it back to your warehouse. What makes it great for this is you don't have to worry about constant turns and going down narrow streets in the city. You can just fly straight there.
Oh, remember that?
In the air. You don't have to worry about crashing the car and losing money. You can also avoid enemy NPCs shooting up the car. But the NPCs will have helicopters and chase you down. Finally, the cargo bob also allows you to drop the vehicle straight into the warehouse.
Is that Nathan or Adam?
On the street and then get out of the helicopter. Get it into the yellow circle, and then it just drives in automatically. You can just drop it over the warehouse, you get the cutscene, and the vehicle gets stored inside, making the cargo bob one of the best vehicles for import-export.
I've muted my mic, I don't want anyone to watch very much of him first.
For $1,750,000 from Warstock. This helicopter is the best way to
no one, it's like a video clip that I've got just so I can see much I'm through.
This helicopter can also be spawned from the office helipad right after you source making getting there easier. It is fast, agile, and can carry 4 people in total. It has lock-on missiles, which can help you in most missions, especially when you have to shoot down NPC helicopters with your cargo. You can use the crates, just land on top of them, and if you have a vehicle, you can use it to cover your friends transporting the cargo. The buzzer can also be used with the nightclub, bunker, hangar, and import-export, should you play them as a CPO.
Yeah. I used Bigger's colour when playing this net.
I know. They look fresh.
For the nightclub, we have the Speedo Custom. This van is free with nightclub, and if you upgrade it, the upgrades are pretty cheap. The Speedo van will spawn in nightclub sales when the cargo is below 100.
It looks quite dark, but so see all the light colours, all the dark colours are quite dark, but all the light colours are very light.
Very easy to pick it up. It is decently fast and has a superior gun over the counter, and it has a remote control machine gun, which I prefer much more over the missile launcher on the counter. If you use the MG, make sure you get the MG and not the minigun, because the MG does more damage per shot than the minigun. The minigun just has a faster fire rate. Lastly, here we have a special mention,
Alright, you
the
watching?
Terabyte, which costs $1,375,000 on war stock. This vehicle is the best for import-export and CEO crates. You can spawn it with the interaction menu whenever you need it, and just go inside a vehicle or a CEO crate. This will prevent you from having to constantly go back to your office. You can then spawn a buzzer right outside and easily retrieve cargo. Just don't use it to collect hangar crates, because it will have you go back to the hangar each time just to get in one of those mission vehicles, which you don't even need for the crates. But for import-export and CEO crates, it's great. As for bunker and MC,
I'm just getting crates.
but if you want to steal supplies, you can from it too. And that is that for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, drop a like. If you're new to my channel and enjoy my content, then subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.
Using what?
Biggest thingy, collarbone.
Yeah.
It makes it, they're pretty smooth, aren't they? Or can you just use normal ones?
Well, which whatever I see on my stream.
Daniel, I use the left stick. See what you use to move?
Oh, that's my jump. See your left stick? That's my jump. Left stick's my jump, look. Look, jump.
That's what I use is fucking...
Edit.
I use that as my pickaxe.
That's my edit, but that's my edit one. The map is my...
Man, you come over to me.
No,
I put it.
The left stick's my edit, and the map...
It's that truck's one HP.
My map's my pickaxe.
Aye, the map's my pickaxe too.
I just find it a lot easier because it's
The
like...
map's always been my pickaxe.
Yeah, that was my only custom.
The way I place traps is R1.
Mine's just square, I like having it square. Hey, what's your thing me as? What's your... I was gonna make it triangle, but then see when I was fights, I kept dying quite up close.
I changed my map to make it triangle.
Oh yeah, that was one of my biggest flaws, but I was gonna make circle making fun, but then I changed my mind last minute is because
You're gonna hard to go over at me, I'll put it in. Don't break the slap trap, it's 50 health. It is 50 health.
Wait, so for I was about to hit it anyway. Yeah, lucky you told me that.
But are you streaming on YouTube, Daniel?
Yeah.
Right, 3, 2, 1, use it.
Making sure.
I'm gonna watch it on YouTube. I'm gonna watch your stream on YouTube.
Yeah, pointless. Daniel, we're in ring. We can use our full rotation.
Adam, see when you hear me spamming my controller and you see Daniel sweating, that's not, this is what I'm doing. Adam, see when everyone says I'm sweating my controller though,
it's
that's not true.
Like the wee lava jet, Daniel.
Split
Can I
it?
take it then I'll split you?
Yeah, don't you split wood, I've got max wood.
Aye, I've got max on.
See, do you have to have your YouTube channel on your phone too?
No.
I need brick.
How do you do it?
I'll give you, get 250 brick for 250 metal.
How much metal do you have?
70.
And then, see when I go on Fortnite and then
I'll
I try to stream.
I'll only need to like
And then I try to stream.
Hannah.
That's what it says, right? You listen.
I need 100.
Right, this is what it says. Let me tap on it. Right, when I
Drop
tap
me
on
109.
YouTube, instead of
Drop me some metal.
it says, to start broadcasting on YouTube, you must agree to the YouTube terms to enable live streaming. Right, it says, to start broadcasting on YouTube, you must agree to the YouTube terms to enable live streaming.
Are you 500?
What do you think that means?
The reason I gave you brick is because there's a bunch over here.
Did I attack you?
What colour?
Grey.
No, I'm not taking it. Supply drop on the left of me. Steve Danger Throw, what do you think?
They're drop.
Yeah, there's right one right there.
Maybe
Well, I'm eating my mic. Fuck's sake, I said that, I thought.
do you think we could get it?
Yeah.
Top things when I go get a drop, someone just takes it last minute. Don't do shit.
I've got max
No,
strength.
it's like, would it not?
If it goes anyway, I can just jump you guys. There's another one in the distance. No, I'm not going over there.
Oh my god, that's so far away.
Oh, I thought that was pretty close. Didn't look that far. Working bitch. RPG, I'll take that. 2 rocket launchers. Oh no, it's actually not expanded, and I'll take them. You carry them.
I've got twins.
Oh, I'll carry the big. I'll carry the big.
I've got twins and I've got magic.
I'll carry the big one. You got no SMG?
No, I've got that.
Why should I let me stream on YouTube?
What?
Why should I let me stream on YouTube? It's not.
Right, you need to connect your actual account on YouTube.
And then when I go onto YouTube, see this. To start broadcasting on YouTube, you must agree to the YouTube terms to enable live streaming.
Yeah, see, I done that a couple weeks ago. There's a guy. Please help me. These guys are high builders. In a separate one. Got a trap if you want to trap them. See if you get above it, stand above this trap them. Get in.
I can't get upstairs.
I fucked up my head. Guys were quite slow.
It says you got me a harvest too.
It says he got me hide into this bar.
You've got your story straight. You've spent months prepping to go undercover and infiltrate the Italian-American mafia. You are no longer named Joseph Pistone.
Up to you.
From now on, you'll only answer to a name the crew calls you. You've got a fake driver's license that bears that name. And you've got swagger befitting a gangster. You know how to use that mafia twang and say, how you doing? And forget about it in just the right way. You're going to try and fool some of the most dangerous criminals in the world and bring them down. That will mean seeing some disturbing things. And as you move through this new life, every day could be your last. This is the story of one of the biggest lies the FBI ever told. The story of a man who was once known.
I think it's better Spark Plug or Clash. I think Clash is a little bit worse.
I don't like Spark Plug.
Do you not?
It's like that good.
I like Zaddy.
I bet it's one of those skins where you put it as two every set, but as soon as you get it, you don't wear it.
I like Zaddy.
It's like that.
Danny Brasco. Joseph Joe.
You know,
I want to take a seat. I want to have a seat for some reason. I don't know why.
He was part Sicilian, grew up in New Jersey where the mafia presence was strong, and so he had the background and knew the patois of those gangsters. He looked the part, sounded the part, and when the time came, he was ready to be a wise guy. In fact, a much wiser guy than the wise guys he worked with. His early life didn't consist of petty crime and fighting in the mean streets of New Jersey. He studied hard, attained a degree in anthropology, and later went to work for naval intelligence. It wasn't until 1969, when he was 30 years old, that he started working for the FBI. 5 years later, he was moving to New York.
You wanna play Fortnite?
With hijacking trucks being a big money spinner for the mafia. Sometimes the truck drivers were in on it too, and took payment.
So the Fortnite
Blackout for a payoff. Hundreds of trucks were getting done over.
you want
Millions
to
of dollars
for the failure.
didn't really matter what the bounty
Yes,
was. It
this
could
is
all
good
be
to
sold
know.
on. In 1974, when Pistone joined that unit, the truck hijacking business was bringing in $4.2 million a year. Something
Solo hype night's nearly back. See, on the last solo hype night, I got 24 points. Out of 5 matches.
I'm working this.
that was the Bonanno crime family.
I keep top 50.
The street slang of the gangsters.
So I got
He grew up
12.
among them and had a Sicilian heritage.
I nearly won a solo squad skin earlier.
There wasn't really a better man for the job.
15 points.
Just needed to create a backstory, and that meant everything.
I fucked up.
I'm working.
Obviously.
You ever find some people just haven't left their house in years, but they've only just arrived?
No way. Yes. I've been saying.
I just realised last night I was out
You're
at this time.
insane! Jarvis, you're insane.
Steven, can you hot Jarvis one by
Fights he had in high school.
He was like, you're insane, Jarvis.
Con the Sardi and mouth-watering Casata Siciliana.
Why do you make
no
this
names in the
name?
mafia and how the organization worked. He had made up
Jarvis one by
around the
Jarvis is bad and he's good.
principal income was jewel thievery. And
No,
if you
Jarvis
were
is
jewel,
bad.
you had to know a thing or two about jewels. This was a tricky part of the backstory, and Pistone had to spend some time studying gemology. He passed with bright flying
He
colors.
switched the game for a
Was
living,
erased.
you know?
He was expunged from history. There was no Joe Pistone now,
fact.
only Donnie Brasco,
Where?
the jewel thief. It was intended that he'd stay this way for 6 months, but as you'll see, things didn't quite work out that way. One day, this man named Donnie
Bungee jump?
Little. He frequented restaurants and hung out in bars.
I'll go there.
He had a lot of cash on him, and while he didn't immediately tell the folks he met why this was, he did get
See
persistent.
Mark
Then he let it be known
It looks
that
like
Pikachu where he could get more
for
cash.
me.
It was useful to any
Reminds me
regular
of
buyer.
Dark
With all the
Blue.
cash he
Like
had,
really
he was
Dark Blue.
obviously pretty good at his job. You have to think about how dangerous this was.
People are for you.
Working in Alaska,
Are they?
he could have easily been spotted by
people
someone.
are for you.
And if met on
No.
the street and called Joe, he was done.
I'll save ya.
Prevent
I'll
anyone
save
from
ya.
letting the story out. Only a
I like
few
a
people
base
in the
if you
FBI
want.
knew about the operation. His
Yeah.
own friends didn't know where he'd gone.
You're
The man was
actually
known.
insane,
He
Jarvis.
seemed to be big time. Otherwise,
Oh
someone
my
would
God,
have
you're
already
insane
heard
too.
of it. But the act was that while he was small time, he
you're
could certainly get
insane.
involved with bigger
Hey, what
things
is it?
and likely earn for a
This
thing.
is
It
funny.
actually took about 6 months before he got a break. He was introduced to someone from the Colombo crime family.
Yeah,
He
both
started
one.
working for Jimmy Greco.
He's
Now
fucking
they got most of their money from stealing and hijacking.
She didn't want to do it for the
The higher
film.
echelons of mafia
He
crews,
said that
but it was a
nigga
start. The funny thing is, because he was so undercover,
Turn
the
on
New York
white the
cops soon
nigga
had a
no.
file. That file
Wait, what's
said
the
he was a
color,
crook,
like,
and
line
he
sentence in it?
the crew.
So,
Brasco.
Ah,
And
keep
he got another
awesome.
break.
so Ronaldo
Tony Mira.
is the second one.
Of the Bonanno crime family. Now things got serious.
So put on that.
He was known for his tenure.
Then what does it say when you put it on that?
Look, it says brightness at start. Is this graphics? Is it video I'm supposed to be on? There's video, game, UI.
Graphics, video.
It comes up brightness from
I go to color blind mode.
going mode, right?
And the second one.
The Toronto? The Toronto?
I would pick lazy.
Yeah,
What
it's
color blind mode?
6.
What motion blur?
I turned that on.
No, I just put motion blur off and show FPS.
Mine is on. My motion blur's on.
Wait, is that true? I guess that.
He developed a close friendship with the latter. This is how the many exports of the mafia
I
got
need to go
back
and
to the
create it
FBI.
and test it.
During this time, Life was filled with patches of boredom and loneliness. Months and years passed, and he had no real friends or anyone to love or confide in. It was a dangerous job, but one of the was basically not being able to and enjoy unadulterated emotions. When it came to the more dangerous
are you Russian racist?
What?
and you never had to
What? Because
just played a part.
I'm speaking. I'm just speaking.
Passive or do you play?
Violence, though.
Depends what type. Like what day. And I like some sometimes like playing passive and like playing aggressive.
And his friendships were not real. He might laugh and joke around with them, and the laughter wasn't fake, but he also knew that one bad move would be those guys laughing with him would fix him up.
Oh, legendary chest. Watch
in the Hudson. He also had a wife and kids.
And the legendary chest, I got
he only got to see them once every few months. At one point, he had a car trunk filled with Christmas gifts and was about to go home to his family, but then he bumped into some of his crew, and they took him out on a wild ride. Played the part. The guys in this crew thought Donnie was a bachelor and would be spending Christmas alone in his room. They sympathized with the man. They even visited him at his room and brought a surprise Christmas tree, after which they helped him decorate it. What are you going to do? It's Christmas time. Bada bing, bada boom. There was even one time when Brasco's wife had a near-fatal car accident and he had to go missing for several days. He couldn't show sadness and had to make a story at work. One of the scariest aspects of the job as time went by was when he was summoned to a mob meeting. Every single time he showed up, he wondered if his real identity had been exposed, and he would get whacked there and then. On another occasion, he and Lefty were blamed for messing up a job, and he could have been taken out for that, but instead they let him off. Brasco ended up in Florida, where he ran quite a successful operation. At this point, the ill-tempered Mira had just gotten out of jail and discovered that Brasco was making a lot of cash. He demanded part of that, seeing as it was him that gave him the start. This was also a troublesome time when lives were on the line. But when he was alone with Sonny or Lefty, much of the time they just lived like normal friends. They didn't always talk about mafia stuff. You have to remember, this went on for years and years. And while movies or TV might depict Brasco's life as being crime 24 hours a day, it just wasn't like that. Most of the time was spent sitting at home watching TV or going to the bar and playing cards. Brasco didn't know too much about the inner workings of the crime family because he wasn't made man. What you need to know is how the mafia dealt with it. They knew very well.
Oh, you're just still there.
I know.
She said that nigga.
When Sonny told him about 3 captains that had been whacked. They've been told to come to a meeting, and there they were shot by Lefty. Sonny was now confiding in Brasco, which was good and bad. The downside to becoming a closer member of the family was doing what family members did. Dealing with violence and sometimes murder.
I'm not pushing you, there's no way.
I need you to take out a person, but you know what? I'm going to try and make you a maid.
Told you they fucked up.
We're going to make some serious money. He was now in too deep
I'll
for his
let
own
you.
because killing someone was extreme that would follow. Because now he was so close to Sonny, he was a target for the people he was supposed to be warning against. He might get taken out both as a wise guy and in the line of duty. It was too much. The FBI pulled him out. The aftermath was, to say the least, chaotic. Brasco's old crew didn't believe the truth. They thought this was some kind of wicked lie, a trap laid by the FBI. They soon discovered it wasn't a lie, and Donnie Brasco, their friend and associate, had never existed. Sonny was soon murdered for getting too close to Brasco, and Lefty ended up in prison. Miro weren't looking too good because the Bonanno family boss, one Joseph Massino, had ordered his murder. A soldier named Joseph D'Amico did the business in the end, shooting him a few times in the head. Ironically, D'Amico would also later become an informant. As for what happened during the job, his friendships made. Pistone once said, "I had no sense of guilt. All during the course of the operation, I knew it was a job." He did later say, though, that he didn't want his old comrades to be killed. He only wanted them in prison. The Mafia put a $500,000 contract out of Pistone's life, and to counter what some people believe, he says it's never been rescinded. He and his family have false names, which they change occasionally. No one knows where they are, and they certainly stay away from locations where there is a Mafia presence. Time might have passed, but there'll be some big shot out there who wants to say he was the man who took down the FBI's most famous undercover cop. Looking for another great video from the infographics show? Click this video to get more right now, or try out this video over here. Ben once said,
I'm into our
you know what that means, don't you? Agree to the offer or die. It's a line actually taken from the movie The Godfather, spoken by the fictional mob boss Vito Corleone. It might have been a made-up line, but make no mistake, the Mafia have made many people offers they can't refuse. This organized crime syndicate born in Sicily, Italy, was relentless. Sometimes those mobsters can be cruel, brutal. So at home with violence and killing, you might think the majority of the members have a case of psychopathy. Today, we'll show you just how brutal those people
And I've got our big pot.
perhaps at the end, you
carry this one.
think you have what it takes to be part of the Italian
Do you want to drop the med kit?
killing the
I'll drop the
killers of
big pot.
killers. We'll start with what you might call the
Why go on in there?
the man who got taken out was actually
There's a
one
guy.
of the most feared members ever in the Italian mafia.
This guy?
Maybe thousands of people, according to the FBI.
Over here,
Which make him one of the deadliest
No, they're right.
monsters of
Yeah,
all
there's
time.
two of them.
We should say that some people think thousands is an exaggeration, but let's just say he didn't shy away from an assassination. His name was Albert Anastasia, and although he might have had quite a beautiful surname, on the street he was sometimes called the Mad Hatter, or high executioner. His remarkable body count. He became one of the bosses of contract killing out. That outfit was simply called regarding what after the Gambino family boss was murdered, this guy Anastasia that he actually ordered the case. But you've all heard that expression. Head means the head that wears the crown. He just lose the crown, but he almost lost his head. In October of 1957, he went to get a haircut and a shave, and it didn't end well. Men walked into the barbers and opened fire. Men, but
where's this guy?
Psycho. If you've seen that photo we just talked about, the one taken after the murder of mob boss Carmine Galante is far worse. When a lot of people described as having dead eyes, of being so cold you could barely look at it. In fact, one of the detectives that investigated the bosses once said the effort to scare him was this guy, with good reason too, because he felt not even a pang of guilt hurting or killing people. In fact, he enjoyed it. When he was in prison in 1931, a psychologist diagnosed him with having a personality disorder. So that explains a lot. Standing at just 5 feet 5 inches, he might have also had little man syndrome. In 1974, after a boss was sent to prison, Galante became the boss himself. The thing was, this wasn't approved by the round table of bosses called the Commission. They took umbrage with the guy just planting himself with the big chair. They weren't too keen on him trying to control the business of narcotics and not sharing the winnings with the 5 cents. Suffice to say, when you rankle the bosses, there is usually a debt to pay. That debt is usually your life. In 1979, Galante was in a fight he had at a place called Joe and an American restaurant. He didn't If you look closely at the aftermath photo, you can see a cigar in his mouth. That was put there by the killer. The reason was Galante loved his cigar. As we said in our last Mafia show, murderous monsters would often do something with the corpse in some way to make a point. In this case, here's your last smoke, Carmine. Let this be a warning to anyone else getting on the wrong side of the commission. Citizen salute. There's a saying that crime doesn't pay, but being a good citizen and telling on
Oh my god, you should bought it.
There was a man called Sutton.
I just got it.
Over a 40-year period. Spent much of his
I'll let you. Woo!
one time he was locked up.
Hey,
Called Arnold Schuster.
she don't part on me, won't you?
Trained in New York in 1952. He was sure that he'd seen the making before, so he realizing it was the infamous.
Is it? Wait, have you got 10 bandages in your bazooka?
No, I've got 4.
Why did you say you've got 10?
Oh, it's like glitch.
Well, as the story goes, Mr. Schuster got his 5 minutes of fame for his good deeds, appearing on lots of TV shows and doing interviews. He was a working-class American hero helping to take down one of the bad guys. Okay, so you remember the man called the Mad Hatter? Understandably, the Mad Hatter didn't much like good citizens, and one day he was watching TV when he saw Schuster. He then saw him again. It bugged him how much the public loved this man. Allegedly, he said to his friend, "I can't stand squealers. Hit that guy." Not long after, he was found outside his home on the floor. He'd been shot twice in the groin and once in each of his eyes. That's more mafia symbolism for you. It turned out that the killer was a mobster called Frederick Angel of Death Tenuto. And he once escaped from prison with some. But years later, during another court hearing, another mafia boss said the order to kill Tenuto was given by Albert the Mad Hatter Anastasia. Tenuto was also later presumed killed after he went missing, but we don't know why. It's happening today, too. Before you start to think the mafia is old news and this kind of thing doesn't happen these days, listen to this. In 2019, a mafia boss called Frank Cali was gunned down right outside his house in New York. This might not have happened for a while, but when a boss
should have had his all.
war. You can't stop a boss without someone getting upset, and analysts fear that the killing of Mr. Cali the mafia is alive and well, and business is still going on, though perhaps not booming, and they try very hard these days to stay away from the spotlight. That means no flashy-looking guys walking into clubs, cigar in their mouth, looking like they own the place, or at least they'll have the power to burn down the place. They still have rackets, they still have guns, drugs, and they still have their fingers in a lot of underground pies. As one analyst put it like this, the economy is bigger now. There's more to be had. The pie is bigger. Now, apparently the mafia work with the Mexican drug cartels, having become part of a massive distribution network that floods the world with drugs. That analyst said if you're buying drugs in Europe, it could have been the American mafia that got them there for you. We just don't hear the word mafia much these days. Entertaining Capone. The mafia boss called Al Capone needs no introduction because he's probably the most famous Italian-American mobster of all time. The man, sometimes called Scarface, is a difficult character to pin down. Sometimes he could show he had a heart of gold, and other times he was incredibly ruthless. This story is about a comedian and singer called Joe E. Lewis. He wooed the crowds at Chicago's famous Green Mill nightclub, a club that was partly owned by Capone's lieutenant, Jack Machine Gun McGurn. Because of this, it was famous for being a monster hangout. Capone had his own booth there. The thing is, when you kind of work for a mob-run club, you don't stop working until they allow you to. When you've been made an offer you can't refuse, you really can't refuse. This was the problem with Lewis. When his contract with the Green Mill was about to end, he thought he could just go work for another club called the New Rendezvous Cafe. Well, he was given a stern warning from McGurn that taking that job would lead to blood. The New Rendezvous Cafe was partly owned by another outfit, so losing one of its best entertainers to another mob kind of hurt McGurn. To say the least, he wasn't keen on the idea of Lewis switching jobs. Lewis took the job anyway. In 1927, he was attacked in a hotel, and his throat was sliced the whole way around and tongue severed. He was then left for dead, but somehow he didn't bleed out and was taken to the hospital. It took many years of therapy for him to be able to talk right again. And when he could talk, he had a deep, croaky voice. After that, he became even more popular as a comedian and even got into movies. Word on this.
It's quite normal when we start to meditate for the mind to jump around all over the place.
Street was that Capone never wanted that excessive hit, even though he wanted to keep Lewis at his club. It was Jack McGurn that went over the top, and Capone compensated Lewis with $10,000. That's about $150,000 in today's cash. Capone didn't do anything to McGurn, though. Lewis wasn't that important. McGurn gets his, too. If you learn anything about the mafia when reading the stories, is that violence begets violence. And the bloodstone circle just keeps turning.
Can I get me?
Jack McGurn was Capone's when Capone was filling his pockets with gold during the Prohibition days. But as he demonstrated, Jack had a bit of a bad temper. He had a pretty rough upbringing, being a boxer and also allegedly
and I've got placement points.
Violence, you see. It's also said McGurn could have been one of the orchestrators of the St. Valentine's Day massacre, but that's not been proven. He was a wanted man, and when law enforcement put together their famous public enemies list,
Let's go crazy. Mason, what level you? Right, I came fourth with, how much kills I have there? Danny. Danny. I don't know. I want to two corners. We got 170 points there. Oh. Mason, do I play I got 8 kills, right, and then we got placement twice. But I think it was 170, I don't know. What did you say, Mason? Good, Dan, you might have to place it. I'll use that machine. How are you playing? I was playing you, Dan, but I have to go. Frankie, you better show us the work. Yes, please. Yes, please. Who is this nothing request? Oh, it's Oscar. Oh, Frankie.
He was the fourth guy on the list, but life didn't end well. And at some point, he was abandoned by the mob. In February 1936, the day after the 6th anniversary of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, he went bold. For his last time, he was gunned down by 3 masked men. They left a little poem next to his body. It read, "You've lost your job, you've lost your dough, your jewels and cars and handsome houses, but things could still be worse, you know. At least you haven't lost your trousers." This kind of exemplifies just how cool these guys can be.
Enjoy the search and destroy.
Were created. No one really knows who killed him.
Please, I need to go.
Speculation led it to being other mobsters who didn't
Please.
like the fact
Daniel, I got 8 kills and then died.
You have to go.
Yeah.
Right, bye.
it could have just been someone from the Irish American mob. Payback, perhaps, just as McCann had avenged his father. A hands-off kind of murder. We expect many of you have heard of the movie Donnie Brasco, which tells the true story of how an FBI agent managed to fit in with a mafia group run by Don Sonny Black Napolitano by pretending to be a crook himself. For years, that agent gave a lot of evidence to the FBI, but in time, the FBI would reveal to Napolitano that he had an agent in his crew for years. The operation ended because the agent had been ordered to do a hit, and that was a bridge too far for the FBI. They told him the truth would come out, and so the best thing to do would be to go into the witness protection program. This was not what Napolitano wanted to do. Being renowned as a proud and ruthless executioner feared by many, the agent only said about him, he was a vicious killer. He would kill anybody in a heartbeat if he crossed him. Despite that, the agent and him actually got along really well. In fact, it came out that Napolitano was okay with what he knew would happen, saying he had no bad feelings about the agent, all in a day's work. That's how it went. The mafia bosses were, of course, quite peeved with him for not discovering that he'd had a cop on his team for 6 years. On August 17, 1981, Napolitano was asked to come to a meeting. It would take place in a basement, and we all know what happens in the basements of Italian-American mobsters. Not much laundry and DIY, that's for sure. He was well aware he was going to be killed, and so he was showering in his apartment with his friend.
It's good.
A mob boss later said he died like a man when When his body was much later discovered, it was found that the hands had been cut off. In a mafia court case, it was later revealed that this was a warning to any other mob boss that when you invite a man into your crew, you should always be properly introduced by someone else. Don't shake hands with just anyone. As for the agent, when he found out about the hit, he said, "My intention in all of this was to put people in jail, not get them killed." So, do you think you would have liked to be in the Italian-American Mafia? Tell us in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video, Most Horrific Crimes, the Italian Mafia, Part 1. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
I've been searching this John.
Because it's the first zone and there's 42 people there. So there's a lot of aggressive cards. Tell you.
Expedia helps you book every detail for every traveler and every trip. Connect all the things you love all in one place. Expedia at Autotech.
If there is one person the U.S. authorities do not want escaping from prison, it's the notorious Mexican drug kingpin, one Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. This man, from meager beginnings, the son of a farming family from Sinaloa, became an enemy number one of the United States, and a very rich man, too. They haven't walked up now, but escaped from prison before. Not once, but twice. So it goes without saying that right now he is guarded like no one else on the planet. Could this criminal Houdini get out again? Let's have a look. First, let's see how he managed to escape from prison the first time. In 1993, the LA Times ran the headline, "Mexico arrests reputed top drug kingpin." He was arrested in Guatemala, not far from the Mexican border. The charges against him were murder, kidnapping, and of course, drug trafficking. The authorities said he was behind a huge trafficking operation in a massive tunnel that ran from Tijuana to San Diego, where drugs were carried through. Digging tunnels, as you'll see, was something of a forte for Guzman and his crew. He was extradited to Mexico and got 20 years, 9 months, to be served in a maximum security prison. There, it said he controlled the place and lived in comfort, with the guards doing what he told them to do, while he could easily run his operations from there. As time went by, West, it was time to go. It was January 19th, 2001 when he made his first escape. A prison guard named Francisco El Chito Cambreros Rivera opened the electronic door to his cell and hid himself in a laundry basket. He was pushed through a series of doors and eventually got out of the main door. From there, he was taken in the trunk of a car to a designated spot, and when the time was right, he took off into the night. Like that, he was gone. It might sound too easy, but it was found out that he not only had guards on his payroll, but also the prison director. And the cops were paid to make his getaway into the night that much easier. It turned out to be a bit of an embarrassment for the Mexican authorities. All the bribes he's been paid added up to around $2.5 million. So this could never happen again, right? Wrong. He kept on doing what he did and became Mexico's most wanted man. But despite that, he managed to evade capture. Then on the 22nd of February 2014, after an operation between Mexico and US, they had him, and they thought that was it. He was not going to bribe his way out of prison this time. When being moved around, he was surrounded by the military and the police. Even the A-team couldn't have made the plan come together to extricate this guy from the arms of the law. This time, he was locked up in a very restricted area. His cell had no windows, and he had little contact with anyone. He had a Spartan cell, and this time no luxuries. A bed, a shelf, a shower, a toilet bowl, and a basin. That's what he got. He was allowed some visits, and he had the right to receive the maximum amount of money to buy hygiene products. That was about $48 US. Not so much for the man who had millions. He could take an hour out of his cell a day, but the guards were told not to communicate with him. How on earth could he escape a second time then? Well, on the 11th of July, 2015, he did just that. You see, there was a blind spot for the security cameras, and that was where the shower was. At close to 9 p.m. that night, he was seen going to that part of the cell, and that's where he vanished. Prior to that, for months, El Chapo's men had been digging a tunnel, and the end point was at that shower cell. The digging had been so noisy at times, some of the other inmates had complained about strange noises. El Chapo's wife, Emma Coronel, played a big part in orchestrating the escape. El Chapo had landed not far from the prison where the digging began, and he had even managed to get a smartwatch smuggled into his cell so the diggers knew the coordinates. This was some escape, and the tunnel even had ventilation and lighting. To get out fast, El Chapo used a motorbike, but it was especially made to run on rails. This contraption was also used for the excavation process. Authorities later said the tunnel was 0.93 miles long, 5 feet 7 inches high, and 30 inches in width. It was 33 feet underground, and so El Chapo used the ladder to get down. 3 men, but his freedom didn't last very long. Raid at a residence on the 8th of January 2016, Guzman managed to get away, once again using tunnels. He was captured shortly after, though. Now, the USA wanted him again, and the proceedings got in the way to extradite him. Guzman's men tried anything to prevent this from happening, and even assassinated a federal judge. It didn't work. He was finally extradited on January 9th, 2017 to the USA, exactly 18 years after this first prison escape. Right after his sentencing, in which he received life in prison plus 30 years, he just disappeared. That's because on his way to prison, the safest bet was to take him to an undisclosed location. Even Guzman's lawyers didn't know where he was. It was later revealed that he ended up at what's called America's highest security prison. That is the United States Penitentiary Administrative Maximum Facility in Florence, Colorado. It's known in short as ADX.
Oh my goodness, you might know how many people are left in the third zone.
For local activities, search Parasport, powered by Toyota.
X Florence. This is where the worst of the worst go. In prison terms, it's the end of the road. There are way more guards here to the number of inmates than in other prisons. Inmates are locked up 23 hours a day. When they are allowed out, it may come at any time, day or night. So even if somehow a plan could be devised by the people on the outside, they wouldn't know when their guy was out of his cell. The 7 by 12 feet cell has a bed, a stool, and a desk all made of poured concrete. The cells are soundproof, so prisoners can't shout and communicate with each other. The inmates never know where they are in the facility because they never see through a window that will allow them to guess their location. Even when they can exercise, it's not so they can't see over the walls. It's not a big one either, and it only takes 10 steps to walk from end to end. All over the prison, there are motion detectors, cameras, and the thick steel doors can only be opened with remote control. Officers monitor all parts of the prison from a control room, and if anything strange should happen, they can hit a panic button which will automatically lock every...
Mason, Putin, Whitney, Stoney. That's nice, Sam. And I'm gonna trick shot, kids. Okay, mate. Annie, come on, see you later. Mason. Hello. Yeah. Nah, you're not here. That's nice. Sounds fun. I need to know if you're down.
The prison also has pressure pads, so an alert is sent if someone should stand on one of those pads. If someone could somehow get past the pressure pads and the cameras and get outside, they would have to scale a 12-foot tall razor wire fence, and they'd have to do that in front of heavily armed guards in one of the many towers. Other guards will walk around with attack dogs. It's very likely that Guzman is also in the most secure unit of this ultra-secure prison, which is called Range 13. By the way, guards at this prison are vetted to prevent anyone corrupt getting a job. While working, they're told to communicate with the prisoners as little as possible. It's escape-proof, is what most people say, and it's not a nice place to end up. A former warden once described it like this: "This Supermax is life after death. It's long-term. In my opinion, it's far much worse than death." Others have said how eerily quiet the place is because no two inmates move at the same time. It's very clean. Everything is spotless. So when journalists have gone in, they've been very surprised. It might look as bright as heaven if it weren't hell. In fact, that's how one warden described it, like a clean version of hell. It's only 60 minutes. I don't know what hell is, but I do know the assumption would be for a free person, it's pretty close to it. This is how one inmate described it. The purpose is to gradually tear a person down mentally, environmental and physical deprivation. For an inmate, it's kind of like having the place to yourself. Some people have said, because it's like this, the only way a person could escape would be if they actually had the prison warden in their pocket, which is never going to happen. There are only around 400 inmates, some of whom include Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, and Terry Nichols, the Oklahoma City bomber. Just to get near the place, you'd be spotted, and Guzman can forget about buying land near it. This prison is in a remote location. There's not much for miles around. Guzman has visitors, but only his lawyer and his 2 daughters have been allowed to see him. He cannot actually touch anyone who visits him. He's told his lawyer, because of the oppressive conditions, he regularly
Oh.
Permission.